Good afternoon, one and all. So today we are going to see the last part of Module 3. This is the last lecture in Module 3. So far we have seen the quality of service aspects of ad hoc wireless sensor network. What all topics we have seen so far is the very basic definition of quality of service. Then we had seen the real-time traffic support, and we had seen the topology and how to configure or calculate the quality of service based best path between sender and receiver. Then there were issues and challenges for providing quality of service in ad hoc wireless network. Then there came to different layered solution, that is MAC layer solution and network layer solution in quality of service. In network layer solution, we had seen three very important different algorithms, that is ticket based QoS, predictive location based QoS, and on demand link state multipath QoS routing protocols. After that, we had seen previous day the QoS framework for simple QoS and for flexible QoS model, which is called FQMM. Then we had seen what is the need for energy management in ad hoc wireless networks. Today we are going to see again the same thing in detail, that is what is the different types or classification of energy management schemes for ad hoc wireless network. So what we will find is there are mainly three types of energy management schemes found in ad hoc wireless network. All the schemes are working towards optimizing the usage of energy for any node within the ad hoc wireless network. So if you are able to optimize the network or sensor node energy, that means we are optimizing the overall network energy. In that case, network lifetime will increase. And we have seen in the previous day why the optimization or saving network energy is very much required. Why all these different schemes are required for energy management? The answer was we are not able to change the network battery or the node battery very frequently. So once we have deployed it, it will be deployed forever. And as long as it is there in the application, it will be functioning. As long as the battery is there up, it will be functioning. And after the battery dies down, the node also dies down with the battery. So if you want a secured a link between the sender and receiver, we have to ensure that the battery life is maximum, and that we can ensure by minimizing or optimizing the battery usage. So it is written here in the classification. We have seen this slide previous day. It has said that energy awareness needs to be adapted by the protocols at all layers. So we have seen the MAC layer solution, we have seen the network layer solutions, and in the protocol stack, that means the way the all the algorithms are interacting with each other. So there also energy conservation should be there. And this is one of the very important design objectives of ad hoc wireless network and network layer protocol, MAC layer protocol. At every layer, we can do some energy saving. So there are mainly three different types of energy saving schemes. So first is battery management schemes. This is happening at the MAC layer. Then transmission power management scheme and system power management scheme. So they are actually network layer based power management schemes. So maximizing the life of ad hoc wireless network, which is the basic objective, it is requires an understanding of the capability and the limitation of energy sources of the nodes. So we are supposed to reduce the wastage of energy at any sensor node. That will increase the node lifetime. It will in turn increase the network lifetime. A greater battery capacity leads to a longer lifetime of the nodes. Increasing the battery capacity can be achieved by taking into consideration either the internal characteristics of the battery, which is actually called as battery management, or by minimizing the activities that utilize the battery capacity. So either you improve the battery or understand the battery well and conserve the energy, or whatever external works are being conducted by the battery, there in the activities we have to optimize the battery power usage. So these are the very important things. That is, one is battery management and another is other work management, which is being which are actually requiring or extracting power from the battery. So at both these two stages we have to optimize the energy from the battery. from the battery. So the system power management approach can be further divided into device power management and processor power management. So first we will see, so there are mainly three types, that is battery management, transmission power management, and system power management. So we'll start with battery aware MAC protocol, which is also called as BAMAC, which is actually a MAC layer solution. So when a battery is subjected to constant current discharge, so there are two effects. Be very careful. These two questions can be asked as a short question. First is capacity effect. Second is recovery effect. What is capacity effect? When a battery is subjected to a constant current discharge, so battery is discharging, this is actually called as capacity effect. Constant current discharge, that means it is discharging with having a pulse kind of a nature of discharge. Okay, in that case it is called as capacity effect. So discharge of battery with a constant current discharge is called as capacity effect. So high capacity effect means the height of the pulse for constant current discharge will be more. Okay, so because of this, the battery becomes unusable. Unusable means battery becomes exhausted. So constantly, whenever it is transmitting some data packet, constantly it is sourcing some kind of current, and after the battery gets exhausted, it cannot transmit any more of data packets. Okay, so this is actually called as capacity effect. That is the constant current discharge. What is recovery effect? But if the battery remains idle for a certain time interval, it becomes possible to extend the lifetime of the battery due to the recovery effect. Same thing happens with a mobile phone. We are using mobile phone and we are finding the charge in mobile phone is 26%, is very less. Okay, then we keep the mobile switched off, and we keep it for in a switched off state for 1 or 2 hours. Then again, if we start the battery, initially it shows from 26, it goes a little above than 26, so it might show you 28, 29% and all. Okay, so this is called as recovery, the capacity effect. That is, keep the battery idle for certain time, and again it will show you a little bit higher lifetime or a little bit higher charge than when it was switched off. So these two definitions you please prepare. By increasing the idle time of the battery, that means how long it is not doing any function, no transmission, no receiving, it is just idle, not doing any big work. Increasing the idle time of the battery, the whole of its theoretical capacity can be completely utilized. That means don't exhaust the battery continuously. So use it for a certain time, keep it off for a certain time. Likewise, we can do a better battery life management kind of a thing. So if higher amount of charge is remaining in the battery, then possibility of recovery of battery capacity is higher. So if there is 80% charge remaining, if you switch it off, you will be finding it to be going to 83 or 84%. So more is the battery charge, more will be its recovery capacity effect. The capacity of charge recovery decreases with decrease in remaining charge in battery. So I gave you the example 26%. If you are switching it off, it might go to 28% due to recovery capacity effect. But if you are switching off at 80%, then after switching on again, you might find it to be going to 85%. So more is the battery charge or charge stored in the battery when you are switching it off. Higher will be the recovery after you are switching the device on. So BAMAC or battery aware MAC protocol is an energy efficient contention based node scheduling protocol which helps to increase the node lifetime by exploiting the recovery capacity of the effect of the battery. So we are actually trying to improve the recovery capacity effect, and the protocol used for that is called as BAMAC. How you're doing it is explained, and what is the feature. So there's one current graph and there is one voltage graph. These two graphs are very much expected while you are writing this thing in the exam. So what is this protocol about? Let us see. So this protocol provides enough idle time for ad hoc wireless network nodes by scheduling the nodes in a appropriate manner. So it is all by node scheduling. So when to make it work, when to allow it to go to sleep. So that scheduling is done by MAC protocol, and through that actually recovery capacity effect is enhanced. So it tries to provide uniform discharge of the batteries of the nodes that content for the common channel. So contention we are seeing from the very first chapter, that is there are maybe 5 sender nodes who all want to send data through the channel. So they have to fight among each other, and one of the nodes will get the contention. One of the nodes will win the contention, and he will transmit data over the channel. So by this BAMAC, what we are finding is the contention is going into a fair contention. That means it is only one sender node is continuously not allowed to transmit. So if there are 5 sender nodes, each of the sender nodes is allotted a slot. That means every sender node is getting 4 time slots to rest, and in the fifth time slot, it is again transmitting. So this is called as round robin scheduling, or it is also called as the fair share scheduling. That means if there are 5 nodes, so first 1 second one node is transmitting, and after that 4 seconds that node is taking rest. So in that 4 seconds, it is actually recovering its capacity effect. So this is the very basic understanding of battery aware MAC protocol. So a round robin scheduling or fair share scheduling of nodes is done here. Each node maintains a battery table. So there is a table continuously updated. So I explained state of the charge. So we can sense the state of the charge in the battery, and depending on that, a table is prepared. In that table at the top, those node numbers will be there who are having highest battery charge stored, and lesser battery charge stored will be kept to the lower side of the table. Okay. So in this case, each node maintains a battery table which contains information about remaining battery charge in each of its one hop neighboring nodes. So not every node battery details are kept in the table, but if one node is there, it is surrounded by 4 single hop nodes. That means within one hop, how many nodes are there? Suppose if there are 4 single hop nodes, then what is the charge stored in those 4 single hop nodes? That detail is stored in the battery. The entries in the data table are arranged in as reducing remaining battery charge at nodes. I told you just now that whichever battery is having highest remaining charge, that will be having number one. So its ID will be written as number one. So second highest remaining charge, that will be in the position 2. So the battery which are having very less amount of energy stored in it, that will be having number higher. So higher is the battery number in the table, that means it's having lower energy, and lower is the battery position number in the table, that means that node is having higher stored energy. So RTS CTS data ACK packets carry the remaining battery charge of the node from which they originated. So whenever a node is generating RTS CTS data or acknowledgement, inside that packet also it is embedded that what is the rank of this battery or how much is the energy stored in the battery. So whenever that RTS CTS data or acknowledgement goes to some other packet, so that other packet understands just decoding this RTS ATS packet, that from whichever node it is coming, how much is the energy stored in that node from which this RTS CTS all the signals are transmitted. So very important thing, that RTS CTS data acknowledgement packets carry the remaining battery charge information of the node from which they obtained this. A node on listening to these packets, listening means receiving and decoding the packet or opening the packet. A node on listening to these packets make a corresponding entry in its battery table. So one node always is updating its table, and inside this table it is written that it is surrounded by 4 other nodes, and how much are the energy in each of those 4 nodes, how much are the remaining energy in each of those 4 nodes. There is something called as back of time. What is back of time? Whenever a node is waiting for contention, it is not winning the contention, it has to wait. Okay, so how much time it has to wait, that is actually a function of this rank. Now what is rank? Rank is nothing but that ID of that node depending on its remaining charge. So rank is very high, rank is 1 or 2 or 3, means very high amount of charge is remaining inside the battery. So higher the battery is there in ranking, that means more is the charge remaining. In that case, the back of time will be less. Okay, so in that case, that battery has to wait for a lesser number of time. So the objective of the back-off mechanism used a BAMAC is to provide a round-robin scheduling of the nodes for uniform discharge profile. Back-off period is given by this. Okay, so this is uniform is a function. CW mean is the minimum size of the contention time window. That means for how long it is fighting. Rank the position of the entry in the battery table of the node. So more is the higher is the amount of charge stored. In that case, the rank will be less. That is, rank 1 means least rank. In that case, back of time also will be least. And there is very less amount of charge stored in that battery. That means its rank will be high. That means this battery is almost discharged. That means that battery will not win a contention. So if a node wants to win a contention, in that case, it should be having rank higher. If rank is high, in that case, its waiting time will be less. So very fast, it will be given a contention. So this, from this formula, we can understand that back of time is directly proportional to rank. So more is the rank, more will be the waiting time. More is the rank, less is the energy stored in it. And less is the rank, more is the energy stored in it, less will be the back of time. Very easy to understand. TSIFS, TDIFS, TT, so they are kind of a that frame waiting time, interframe sequence. So this is short interframe space. DIFS, this is DCF, IFS. Okay, so we have seen what is DCF and what is PCF. There are two different frame structure. So these are different times. Okay, they are multiplied with the rank, and this is actually CWB is the contention window size. But one thing from here we can say that back of time is directly proportional to rank. Less is the rank, less will be back of time. Less is the rank, more is the energy stored in that node. So that is given here. Now here is mainly the explanation of what is meant by BAMAC protocol. It says that the node follows the back of even for retransmission of the packet. So one node was trying to send the packet. It did not get the contention. It did not get a channel for transmission. Then what will that node do? It has to wait. Wait for how long? So the node has to wait for a certain time. So that time is decided by back of time. So if the node is having good amount of energy stored in it, in that case, its rank will be higher. In that case, it has to wait for lesser amount of time. Very simple to understand. Okay, so for retransmission, that means after how much time it is going to get the contention, that time window will be very small if the node is having higher stored energy in it. So when the backup scheme is followed, nodes with lesser rank value, that means higher, okay, it's placed in higher. So battery with more remaining energy are placed towards the top of the table. That means they are having a rank higher but rank value lower. So high rank means rank 1. So rank value low means rank is high. So in that case, back off also duration for higher rank values will be less. So higher rank values means more battery charge. In that case, those with the higher rank values, they will be back off for more time durations compared to those. So just read this line. The node follows the back off even for retransmission. When this backup scheme is followed, nodes with lesser rank values back off for more time duration. So lesser rank means higher rank value. Okay, so they will be waiting for more time. So thus the nodes are scheduled based on their remaining battery charges. The higher the battery capacity, the lower the backup period, the lower the waiting time for higher rank. Okay, hence a uniform rate of battery discharge is guaranteed across all the nodes. This guarantees alternate periods of transmission and idling of the node. How long the node will be kept idle? Okay, so if it is having less battery charge, in that case it will be kept idle for longer period of time. It is having higher battery charge stored in it, it will not be waiting for longer period. In that case, it will be more active, it will be allowed to transmit more amount of packets. It leads to alternate periods of discharge and recovery of the battery, as illustrated in the next slide. So you can see here, this is the transmission period. So in transmission period, the voltage in the battery is dropping. Okay, and this is the idle period. In the idle period is charge recovery is happening. Okay, so again the transmission is happening because this is the time when the other nodes are transmitting. So I told you that let there be 5 nodes, one node will be transmitting first. So this is kind of TDMA. So while transmitting, the voltage in that node dropping. Okay, and after that, for 4 other nodes, when they are transmitting, this node will be idle, or this node will be taking rest. In that case, because of recovery capacity effect, its battery charge will go little up. Again it will start transmitting, its battery charge will discharge again in the idle state. Again it will uh, recovery. So discharge happens during the transmission stage. So this is the voltage characteristic. X-axis is with time. What happens in case of current? Okay, so in current, one very important word was there. What was that? Constant current discharge. So this is very important thing, capacity effect. So this is what is called as constant current discharge. So whenever the transmission is happening, voltage is falling, but during the transmission stage, the current will be kept intact. Okay, so this is the on time for one node. That means current is constant. So this is a constant current discharge. And this case, this first node is off. In this case, second node, third node, fourth node, fifth node, they will be again transmitting. So this is the idle. So n minus 1 into m is the one slot length. So n minus 1 means 4. So if I'm saying 1 second, so this is 1 second and this is 4 seconds. So n is equal to 5. So for 1 second, it will be transmitting m is equal to 1, and n minus 1 into m, that is 5 minus 1 into 1 is 4. So for 1 second period of time, the transmission will happen, voltage will be reducing, constant current discharge will happen, and next 4 seconds, this node again will recover. Again, next 1 second it will transmit, again next 4 seconds it will recover. So the recovery capacity effect happens for 4 seconds, and data transmission happens for 1 second. This is actually the battery aware MAC protocol. Finally, the conclusion: in this protocol, whenever a node gains access to a channel, that is only for 1 second it is gaining access, and remaining 4 seconds, other 4 nodes are gaining access in a circular fashion or round robin fashion. So whenever a node gain access to the channel, it is permitted to transmit only one packet. So don't transmit everything together. Okay, so you transmit one part of it, wait for your next contention, giving rise to an average idle time of n minus 1 into m, that is 5 minus 1 into 1 slot time. M is 1 slot time, n minus 1 is how many nodes, other nodes senders are there. Okay, where n is the total number of nodes contending for the common channel. I told you there are 5 nodes who are fighting for the channel, so 1 is transmitting, remaining 4 are idle. M is the average time taken by a node for transmission of a packet. This improves the lifetime of a battery as it gains more idle time to recover charge because of the reverse capacity effect. So if BAMAC is asked, you have to explain this graph. You have to explain the concept of back of time. So back of time is directly proportional to the rank, inversely proportional to the rank value. So rank is higher, that means rank value is lower. So if rank value is lower, at the time back of time will be lower. Okay, this part you have to explain. And below part, the same thing, whatever is given in the equation above, that part is explained here. And this is actually the first protocol, which is called as BAMAC. Next, let us find out a network layer based solution, which is called as transmission power management in ad hoc wireless network by minimum battery cost routing. This is a important thing to understand. So there is a important parameter which is called CTI. What is CTI? You have to understand, and the function is actually an inverse function of CTI. So what is CTI? We have to find out. It is called as minimum battery cost routing. So cost does not mean money. Cost means the cost function. Okay, so what is the cost function here? How much is the energy stored inside the battery is the cost function. So MBCR algorithm, that is minimum battery cost routing algorithm, it's a individual battery charges are taken into consideration while selecting the node. So in MBCR, the individual battery charges are taken into consideration while selecting the route. So which nodes are to be selected, that depends on how much charges are remaining in the battery. So a selected route must not contain nodes that have less remaining battery capacity. So I told you in the beginning that whenever we are selecting a route for data forwarding later on, we have to select all those nodes which are full of energy. Okay, even if one node is having less energy in that route, that will disturb the whole process. So you have to select those nodes or those intermediate nodes who are having average energy quite high. Okay, so if there are 4 nodes, intermediate nodes, 3 nodes are having very high energy, but one node is having very less energy. Together, what is the responsibility, or together, what is the security of that route? It is very less, because one node in the route fail means the whole path will go bad. Okay. So this is these are the things which are put in a mathematical form, and they are telling what is MBCR algorithm. Okay. So a selected route must not contain nodes that have less remaining battery capacity. This may be done in many ways, but if CTI denotes the charge remaining in the battery. So CTI is how much charge is remaining in the battery. So in previous case also BAMAC, we are talking about the same thing, and in MBCR this thing is given a function. So remaining charge in the battery is given by CTI. Okay, so I may be current, T may be time. Okay, and battery cost at any time instant t. Okay, TCTI, this represents the battery cost function. So at any time how much is the charge remaining in the battery. C is actually coulomb, so that's why it's called capacity, or you can say capacity. So at any time how much is the battery capacity, how much is the charge remaining, this is given by TCTI. Is representing the battery cost for host Ni, for any node Ni, ith node. Okay, this much is the energy stored in the battery. The function reflects the remaining battery capacity at the node. So function is actually 1 by CTI. So if f is big, if f is big means c is small. So if there is less amount of charge stored, in that case the function will be having higher value, or if higher amount of charge stored, this function will be having lesser value, exactly like the previous case. If the higher amount of charge is stored in that battery, in that case it will be having rank value less. Rank will be high but rank value will be less. Okay, so this is that rank value thing. More is the energy stored in the battery, less will be the rank value. So lower the value of the function fi, more willing the node is to participate in the route selection algorithm, because whichever nodes are having more amount of charge stored in it, those nodes are to be taken into the proper routing case, for proper selection of route. And nodes who are having less number of energy, less amount of energy stored, they are having higher rank value, those nodes should not be included as much as possible in the routing path. So if a routing contains n nodes, then the total cost for the route Ri is the sum of the cost function of all these n nodes. And the routing algorithm selects the path with the minimum value. So minimum value of f means maximum value of c. So there are 3-4 different routing paths from the sender to the receiver. For every node, what is the value of TCTI? So at any instant how much is the CT value for that node we are going to check, and whatever is the lowest, so whatever is the lowest function value for that, we are going to select that path. So there is an example given in the next slide, and we'll see that, and that is actually a reverse case. Okay, so this algorithm with this logic, that whichever path is having less value of fi, less value of not CTI but less value of fi, that node will be taken as those nodes will be taken for the routing path. So it is said that the routing algorithm selects that path with a minimum value of total cost among all the routes that exist between the source and the destination. So minimum value of fi means maximum value of CTI, and those nodes will be taken for routing. Advantages: the algorithm works well when all the nodes have higher battery capacity. So all the nodes are having 70, 80, 90% charge stored. In that case, which nodes are to be taken? It is easy to select. But if some nodes are having 70, 80, 90% charge, and some nodes are having 20, 30, 40% charge, then comes the real difficulty. Okay, then how to select it? Okay, that will be the problem. So the algorithm works well when all the nodes have higher battery charge, but because of the network nodes have almost drained their battery charges, some discharge control mechanisms are required to ensure uniform drainage from the batteries. The main advantage of this algorithm is that metrics used can be directly incorporated in the routing protocol. So what is expected in case of the whole network is all the nodes should discharge, or all the nodes should charge at the same time. So if nodes are discharged, it should not happen that few nodes are having 20-30% energy left, few nodes are having 50-60% energy left, and few nodes are having 90-100% energy left. That means those who are nodes who are having 190%, that means they are not used at all. And the nodes who are having 10-20% energy remaining, that means they are repeatedly used. So this is not required. So if there are 10 nodes, we have to see that average all the node energy lies in the range of maybe 50 to 60%. So the routes have to be designed in such a way that all node discharge symmetrically. That is very important. Otherwise, there will be created some blind spot in the network. Now this is the main drawback. So this diagram also is expected as the minimum battery cost routing drawback. And very specifically, you have to understand what are these values: 15, 18, 110. Okay, so 15, 18, 110, these are actually the FI values. Okay, and from source to destination, there are three nodes: node 1, node 2, node 3. What does minimum battery cost routing says? That it just checks node 1 15, so 15 is the FI value, node 2 18, so 15 and 18, their value is 33, and that is added with 110. So 110 means this is FI value 110. That means C value of this node is very high. That means this node has discharged almost. Okay, whereas this node is having F value less, this node is having F value very less. Okay, that means these two nodes are maybe 70, 80, 90% charged, but this node is having F value. So these are F value, remember, these are not C values. Okay, so this node is having F value very high. That means C value for this node is very less. That means charge stored in this node is very less. But what minimum battery cost routing says, that we just keep on adding all the F values for any path, and whichever path is having lowest F value, that path we select for routing. So on the contrary, just check the other path, blue path. So black path is there at the top, route 1. Blue path is there at the bottom, that is route 2, between source and destination. Which path is more feasible? So just check blue path, it is having 50. This is FI is 50, FI is 45, FI is 55. So this path, all the nodes have discharged almost in the equal manner, because they are in the same range: 40, 50, 45, 50, 55. Whereas this path, two nodes have not discharged at all, because their FI value is very less, and one node has discharged to a greater extent. Now, if you are adding all this 15, 18, and 110, this becomes 143. But if you are adding 45, 55, and 50, so if you are trying to find out the CT of the overall thing, so actually this should be actually FI. So this should be 150. And what does the protocol say? Protocol says that whichever is having a lesser FI, that path has to be taken for routing. So as far as that MBCR algorithm is concerned, this is having lesser FI. So lesser FI means more CT. In that case, this path will be taken as for routing between source to destination. But that is wrong. Why wrong? Because this thing will die very fast. Okay, this thing will die very fast. This two node will not die, but this thing is having very high uh, value of ranking. That means very high value of ranking means very less value of CT. That means very high value of FI this thing is having. Okay, so even if the MBCR algorithm is telling that this path is having overall value of FI less, but uh, this will be a better path. Okay, so this is actually the drawback. So major drawback is use of summation of the remaining energy of the nodes as a metric is a main problem in this. This metric selects a path which has more remaining energy on an average for all its nodes rather than for individual nodes. This may lead to erroneous condition as shown in figure. Route 1 is selected in spite of some of the nodes having less battery capacity compared to the all nodes in the route 2. So route 2, just check that first thing is all are in the mid range. Okay, so they have half exhausted and they are half remaining. And route 1, they are almost fully intact, 1 and 2, but node 3 is almost discharged. So though their combined FI value for route 1 is coming less, though as per MBCR we are supposed to select that route with lesser value of MBCR, but in this case if you are selecting this route 1 as your routing path, we will make a mistake, because this node 3 is going to die very soon. So in such a scenario, maybe some smart algorithm has to be used. So although the battery capacity of node 3 is too little, the path containing node 3 is selected for a connection from source to destination, because route 1 has lesser cost due to the other nodes on the path. So actually there's a mistake. That mistake is being explained here. Okay, so this thing is a thing. What is mistake? So what I suggest is best will be to take a path which having kind of average value of function fi. Okay, so this three you just check the 50, 45, and 55. So distance between the fi values in route 2 nodes, that is node 4, node 5, and node 6, they are quite close. So variation in the fi values in this is very close, variation is less. So I think for this kind of mbcr, so the routes which are having lesser variation in the fi values, that will be a better choice, rather than here the value of fi is less but the spread is more. Spread is more means two nodes are having very less fi, one node is having very high fi, so it's covering a wide range. So rather than taking the overall addition to be less, what we can take is whichever node is having the spread less, spread of the fi value less, that node would be a better choice for the routing information. So that will actually add to more amount of reliability. So this was actually minimum battery cost routing. Then in network layer solution, there is another understanding which is called as minimum energy disjoint path routing. So we will not explain this thing in detail. Only things you have to remember here. So minimum disjoint routing is having two things. One is disjoint node, and another is disjoint link. So link is nothing but the path between one node to another node. Okay. So what disjoint says, that disjoint means no element in common. So if there are two paths, what we have to see that between two parts, no nodes are common. Okay, so through one node, two routes are channelized. This case should be avoided as much as possible. Okay, and two routes are using same link. This case also should be avoided as much as possible. Okay, so both these are explained in the minimum energy disjoint path routing. It is said that ad hoc networks are highly unreliable due to node mobility. Probability of link failure is quite high in such networks. Hence, this problem can be removed by overcome by means of link disjoint routing, where no node and no links are common between two routes. So two different paths from source to destination should be having all nodes separate, should be having all links separate. Also, since the ad hoc nodes have very less energy or stringent battery constraint, node disjoint routing considerably increases the lifetime. So node disjoint means no node should be used for two different routes. So if through one node uh, uh, packets for two different routes are being channelized, that node will be using huge amount of transmission and reception power, and that node will die very fast. So one node part of two or three different routes, this thing should be avoided. So disjoint means every node should be separate for every route path or route link. That is actually the minimum energy disjoint path routing. So a lifetime of the network by choosing different routes for transmitting packets at different points of time. Routing scheme assumes that the topology is known as a priori in the form of an energy cost graph. Okay. The last line, there is an optimal algorithm for finding minimum energy disjoint path n number for node to the network. So there are different algorithms which are actually written for this disjoint path routing, but only thing you have to remember is all the nodes should be disjoint. That means nodes should not be common for the two or three different route paths. And link disjoint, that means there should not be any communication link which are common for two or three different route paths. In that case, that will give you a network based layer solution for transmission power management thing. So transmission power management is having actually two algorithms. One is mbcr, minimum battery cost routing. And what is the disadvantage of mbcr, that is explained with respect to this diagram. Please prepare. And these figures are also very important, and you have to give this figure explanation all very properly, and this inside bracket figures are more important. Okay. And this is another network layer transmission power management, which is called as minimum energy disjoint, which is saying that no node or no two nodes or no two links should be common for any two different routing paths. Okay, they should be disjoint. There should not be any element in common, like separate teacher teaching the same subject into different class but at different time. Okay, so there should not be any overlap. But if the teacher is combining the classes and one day the teacher is absent, both the class suffers. There is a best example for disjoint path routing. So this is the last thing. There's the 2 3 more slides. what is called as system power management, and this is actually the remote activated switch scheme or RAS scheme for processor power management in ad hoc wireless network. So system level power management deals with power control in the peripherals and the processor of nodes in ad hoc wireless network. Efficient design of the hardware causes significant reduction in the power consumed, and for system level power usage reduction, some peripheral devices may be operated in power saving mode. So when to put a node into idle mode, idle, IDLE, not ideal or not idle. Okay, it is idle. IDLE means alsi, chupchap baitha hai. So for system level power usage, some peripheral devices may be operated in power saving mode or idle mode. So we have to turn them off under idle condition. System power consists of the power used by all hardware units of all nodes. This power can be conserved significantly by applying the following scheme. So how system power management can be achieved? By processor power management and by device power management. What is meant by processor power management? So in processor power management, it reduces the power consumed by the processor. It may be caused by reducing the number of calculations performed by the processor. So if you are asking a processor to do many work simultaneously, that means processor will be running too much. It will try to do too many work. That's why our PC gets heated up if the PC is running a very big algorithm or something. Okay, because in that case we are asking the processor to do too much work in a very short amount of time. So remote activated switch is a concept which is a scheme in one such power management technique that is applied for hardware level for processor power management. So what is a power saving mode? That is very important. It is explained here. So ad hoc wireless network nodes consume huge power even if when they're switched off. It's a very contradicting thing. So they are switched off means they are not transmitting anything. But there is something called as carrier sensing. What is carrier sensing? A sender node has to listen if there is any carrier present on the channel. So even if the node is not transmitting, but it is listening. So that is written here. Ad hoc wireless node, even if they are idle means it is not transmitting, but they keep listening to the channel, because before transmission it has to confirm that there is no other frequencies present on the channel, there is no other transmission going on through the channel near around it. Okay, so it is not always the transmission power, but it is listening power. So the sender node has to keep some of its sensor active who are sensing the carrier on the channel, and that is actually eating a lot of power even if the sender node is idle. So here they keep listening to the channel, awaiting request packets from the neighbor, and they have to keep on listening because you don't know what time your neighbor node will ask you that can you forward this packet through me. So in that case, when the request comes, if the node is idle, then the request goes a begging. So it should not happen. So even if the node is not transmitting, even if it is in idle mode, but then also a lot of power is wasted because the node is actually listening. The node is actually trying to sense if there is any request from the other nodes, if there is any frequency present on the channel for carrier sensing and all. That is actually wasting power. In order to avoid this, the nodes are switched off during idle condition and switched on only when there is an arrival of a request packet. So instead of totally keeping the node into in sleep state, so actually sleep state is divided into different levels. So that is explained here. Okay, I'll come to it. Advantages of power saving mode. So it reduces wastage in power consumed when the node is in listen mode, and provides idle time for the batteries of the node to recover the charges. So whenever the node is in idle state, it is in off state, due to capacity effect, its charge recovery happens. So related issues, since the arrival of request packet is not known from before, because you don't know when somebody is going to call you, you don't know when somebody is going to need your help. Okay, it keeps on coming, but you don't know exactly when will it come. Okay, so arrival of request packet is not known from before, it becomes difficult to calculate the time duration for which the node is to be switched off. So switching off and request packet, okay, these two things if happening together, so node is switched off and somebody is requesting, that means the request goes a begging. It should not happen. Okay, so an assumption made in this system is that the battery subsystem of the node can be remotely powered on. That means the control is not there on the node, whether the node should go into idle state or the node should be into active state. So that control is there in with a remote assistant. Okay, so that remote assistant might be having a overall control of the network, and that remote assistant might be able to listen to the packets or requests which are coming to a node. So instead of the node itself is going into sleep and waking up, there is some remote access switch which will be making the node go into sleep and waking up from a remote location. So that is what is said is that an assumption made in the system is that the battery subsystem of the node can be remotely powered on by means of a wake up signal that is based on RF tag technology. So RF tags are used for transponders for remote localization, activation, and identification of objects with a short range. Hard QoS requirement, that means the QoS requirement for time must be met. Hard QoS requirements made the node stay active for some of the time. This results in high consumption of battery charge. So whenever the nodes are alive, whenever the nodes are active, this will be charging quite a lot of power. Okay, but what happens is in the remote access switch, so here the explanation is there. In a remotely access switch, it is a distributed technique in which a sleep pattern is selected by the power source. So the battery module of the node is controlled by a remote access switch, because if the control of the sleep state and active state is in the node, then the node goes into sleep and the request goes on awaking. It should not happen. So there should be a remote activated switch, and that remote activated switch will be able to sense that if there is some request for a node, and accordingly it will switch on the power part, not the whole node. The power part of the power supply part of the node will be activated by remote access switch. So it is a distributed technique in which sleep pattern is selected by the power source. So the remotely activated switch will understand that okay, request is going to come from this node to this node. So whichever is the receiver node, the remote access switch will wake up the power module of the receiver node from remote distance. This is what it is. Okay, and depending on the traffic delay, the remaining change of the the node selects different timeout values. That means duration of sleep. So all the nodes are going to sleep at the same time and waking up after a certain time. So that is a fixed pattern. So in this case, for remote active switch, all the nodes are put into sleep with a different level of sleep. Sleep 1, sleep 2, sleep 3, okay, up to sleep 1 to sleep L stages, with L corresponding to the fully active state, while 0 corresponding to the deep sleep state. So here, whether the node is to be put into 0 state, that means too much of sleep, deep sleep, huge amount of time will be required to wake it up, or the node is sleeping in a L minus 2. Okay, so L means almost awake. L minus 1 means little bit more dense sleep. L minus 2 is again more dense sleep. Likewise, it comes to 0. Okay, so whenever it is 0 means the node is totally sleeping, and whenever it is L means node is almost active, little bit of sleeping. So if it is little bit of sleeping, to bring it into active state, it will take less trigger. So likewise, it is said that the model uses 1 to L are the sleep states, with L corresponding to the fully active and 0 corresponding to the deep sleep state. Now is coming the most important line. The deeper the sleep state of the node, the longer is the lifetime of the battery. So if the remote access switch is taking the node into deep sleep, that means 0 state, because remote access switch knows that nobody is going to request this node for any packet transfer or anything. So that is actually sensed by the remote access switch. And remote access switch has made the power unit of this node and taken into 0 sleep state. So that is the job of remote access switch. It will define that it will take the power unit up to which level of sleep. So So remote access switch has taken this node into zero level sleep. Zero level sleep means total sleeping. That means no listening to the packets, no listening to the request, no transmission and nothing. In that case, highest amount of battery energy will be saved by the battery unit of that node. So controlled by RAS and executed in the power unit of every node. To implement the remote activation of the nodes, the RAS switch is used. So this is the last slide actually, and this block diagram is very much expected. That's a block diagram of remote access switch. So you can find here receiver logic. So in which sleep state this has to be put. This is decided by this logic. So there's a power status battery, and this battery actually is receiving the signal. It is given to the receiver. So after receiving it, the battery is waken up like this. So this is standard receiver transmitter. So when the node enters the idle state, it is switched off by the RAS. Okay, so it is switched off, and that's why the node enters into idle state. The receiver of RAS switch still listens the channel. So who is doing the listening part? Okay, because if the RAS is putting the node into deep sleep, that is state 0, then who is going to listen to the channel if there is any carrier present? Who is going to listen to the channel if there is a request? That part will be done by the remote activated switch, RAS. So this is the RAS, this is not the node. Okay, this is controlling the sleep state of different nodes surrounding to it. So there's a diagram of RAS. It is saying that when the node enters, so node is not shown here. Okay, this is RAS block diagram. So when the node enters the idle state, it is switched off by the RAS switch. The receiver of the RAS switch still listens to the channel. So this receiver is listening if there is any request. If this receiver is listening if there is any frequency present on the channel. Okay, there's carrier sensing. RAS is designed to be either fully passive or powered by the battery. Okay, so the remote neighbors send the wake up signal and a sequence. Okay, so whatever RAS switch is there, and whatever that will be actually waking up the neighboring nodes, and those neighboring nodes will be sending the wake up signal to the node which has gone into sleep after getting the indication from RAS. The receiver, on receiving the wake up signal, detects the sequence. The logic circuit compares it with the standard sequence for the node. It switches on the node only if both the sequences match. So this is how the RAS work is given here. So this is the RAS part. Only thing you have to know that RAS is actually waking up the power unit of the sender, which has gone into sleep after taking the instruction for RAS. So if the nodes are going into sleep, who is checking the link, or who is checking the other nodes? So that is actually the receiver of the RAS switch listens to the channel, and depending on the request on the channel, depending on the some indication of carrier on the channel, this RAS will wake up the power unit of every node. So this much if you're writing, it is enough. Last thing, power over multi-access signaling. So this is called PAMAS. Is another approach for determining the time duration for which the node should be turned off. So it is an estimation kind of a thing. It is calculated for how much time the node should be turned off. This scheme suggests the addition of a separate signaling channel in the MACA protocol. So apart from the data channel, a proper signaling channel is separately designed over MACA protocol, in which only this waking up and sleeping, all these details will be exchanged. The RTS-CTS signaling takes place in separate channel, which determines the time period for which node is to be powered off. So that node where the RTS-CTS and all those things are going through the RTS-CTS, this informations will be exchanged, that which node are to be put in sleep and for how much time. Okay. So this is actually a PAMS. This is not a part of your exam or something, but yes, RAS and remote activated switch, this block diagram, and remote activated switch scheme for processor power management, this is very much required. So this completes the three types of power saving mechanism or power management schemes in case of ad hoc wireless network. And this is offering actually quality of service, and one solution is MAC layer based solution, that is BAMAC, and two solutions are network layer based solution, which is MBCR, and the last one is remote activated switch. So SAR, RAS and MBCR, they are network layer solutions, and BAMAC is a MAC layer solution. So these three are together making the energy management scheme in case of ad-hoc wireless network for QoS. So this finishes your module number 3. So the part which was not included in a part of second module, which was not there in IEA, will be a part of IEA 2, and this whole module 3 will be a part of IEA 2.